My flight book, of course, as a pilot's logbook, helps you keep track of your flying and your currency. But it's also important to verify that the aircraft that you're flying has all of its inspections and is otherwise up to date to fly. Now, my flight book is a pilot's logbook. It's not meant to be an aircraft logbook, but I've still put in basic functionality to make sure that you can stay on top of the key inspections for the aircraft you fly. So to see this or to use this functionality, go to your aircraft list, and you can do it on the web as I'm doing here, or using the iOS or the Android app. It doesn't matter which. Pick the aircraft, and when you scroll down, there's a section called Maintenance and Inspections, and it's hidden by default or collapsed by default if there's no information in it, just to reduce clutter. But if you expand it, you'll see the basic 6 inspections, annual, transponder, and so forth, the aviates ones. I guess aviates adds in the 100-hour, which is a 7th. But for each one, you can enter in the date that it was last performed, and the system will show you the computed next due date using the FAA rules. So, for example, this annual, which is obviously due every 12 calendar months, was done last November 12th, and so it is due again at the end of November this year. Likewise, the transponder with its 2 years expiration, or 24-month expiration, I should say, is all computed for you. And your VOR here is coming due. Of course, that one's only got a 30-day window. 100-hour inspections, oil changes, and engine time, those I can't compute when they're next going to be due, at least not on a date, because these are driven not by the passage of time, but by how much the plane is flown, and you don't know how rapidly it's going to be flown or how much it's going to be flown. But it will tell you, what the next 100-hour interval is, what for oil changes, 25, 50, and 100 hours, and so forth. You can use Hobbs time, you can use tack time, whatever you want. I'm just treating it as a number. And you can also track when registration is next due. And for any change that anyone makes here, because aircraft are shared on the system, you get a little audit trail here of who did what, just so you can see who made what changes. Now, there are additional things that you might need to track, such as airworthiness directives or other maintenance that aren't part of the prescribed maintenance. And so if we go here under Preferences on the Profile tab, you can create additional deadlines. And a deadline can be associated with an aircraft. I have another video that talks about custom deadlines. But if you create a deadline and associate it with an aircraft, come on, there we go. You can either make it date-based, or you can make it hours-based, where hours are, again, tack or Hobbs, depending. It's up to you. It's just a number. So if it's date-based, you provide the date that it's due, and you can optionally say how much it extends each time you complete it. And if it's hours-based, then obviously when you hit that number of hours, it extends by that much. And I've actually got 2 already entered into the system here. One is date-based. So we've done on the Mooney in our club, we've done a glass upgrade, and so we have to update the database every 28 days. And so if it comes due and I update the database, I can come in here, click Edit, and it says, see how it says new expiration is 28 days from, and so I can put in the date that I complete it, and when I say update, it will push out the new. It'll regenerate the deadline with a new date that is 28 days later. And here is an hours-based one. We have a new prop on the plane, and we have to grease it every 100 hours. And so it's a similar thing, except instead of a date, this one's going to be extended by 100 hours from whatever hours I put in here. And so if I go back to my aircraft list, those deadlines will show up alongside the maintenance for the aircraft that they're associated with. So I can I can update them from right here inside the aircraft details. Where that gets actually really useful is if you use a club, a flying club. So here, let me go to flying clubs, and if you are a manager for the club, I can go to aircraft and I can do two things. One is, let me go to that Mooney here and click edit. And down here, you'll notice a section that says current aircraft hours, and it says highest recorded HOBs and highest recorded TAC. And so what that's just done is it's scanned through all flights in this aircraft taken by club members since the date that those club members joined the club. And it's finding the highest recorded HOBs time and the highest recorded TAC time and letting me cross-fill from those. So we use HOBs, so I'm going to click on the little cross-fill button here and update. And so now I know that the current high water mark for HOBs for this airplane is 4,004. Now I don't do that automatically because if it were all automatic, then one person fat fingering something could put in a bad HOBs value, or sometimes they might do an abbreviated value. Instead of 4,004, they might just put 04. And so you want to have some extra control over that. But now if I go over to reports, there's a maintenance report. If I click refresh, I can see the 3 club aircraft. Here's the current hours for 40 Foxtrot Golf as just entered. And for each aircraft, I can see its last annual, its next annual, transponder, pitot-static, altimeter, and so forth. The VOR check, it looks like this one's actually out of date. And when the next 100 hour is based on the last 100 hour, and it knows that we're beyond that because we've just entered in the current HOBs. And we're coming up on the need for a new oil change because it's been 50 hours. We're past 25 hours on the oil change. Last engine was just at 31.7. That was actually TAC hours. So the engine's obviously good until the engine's not good anymore, but it lets us know how many hours we have on the engine. And so in one place, I can see all of the key maintenance items for an airplane. So if you share an aircraft with somebody, a club can be a great way to keep track of that maintenance. And things like the VOR, if someone else in the club or someone with whom you share the airplane updates the VOR, you can see that that's been done automatically. And the nice thing is that all of this maintenance will show up. If you view your currency, you can see that the VOR checks are due and on these aircraft. By default, it only shows you the upcoming maintenance for an aircraft and when it's due for aircraft that are active in your aircraft list and for which you have actually ever entered a maintenance item. So if you've never entered a maintenance item on something, you rented an airplane from an FBO or something that someone else is putting maintenance in, but you're not, and you're probably never going to fly that airplane again, it won't clutter your currency. But if it's an airplane you fly on a regular basis and you do track the maintenance, it'll show up here automatically for you so that you can see. And this will include both your regulatory maintenance as well as any custom deadlines that you put in. Thanks.